On this week's episode of Top of the List, Ryan and I will be discussing the Jurassic Park series. Stay tuned to find out what's on top of the list.
Welcome back to this week's episode of Top of the List. I'm RB here with my good buddy Dom. And like Dom said in the lead-in, the subject of our conversation today, Jurassic Park. That brilliant world brought from the page of Michael Crichton to the screen, the big screen by Steven Spielberg. Really an incredible world here. Sort of, as I would say, one of the rebirths of a new era of monster films, which, of course, Universal Pictures are known for. Back in the day, you look Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman. Definitely some correlations there. We'll get into that a little bit in the show. But Jurassic Park, definitely movies that we grew up with. Dom, why don't you share a little bit about your thoughts on these films?
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to take a drink of water there, but yeah. This is the fun, uncut stuff that we like to keep in the show. So yeah, Jurassic Park. I grew up watching it just like you, Ryan. I'm not sure exactly what age I watched it, but I remember being amazed by it. Absolutely one of those films where you're a kid. It's scary even for adults, but
Absolutely,
it's
yeah.
absolutely enjoyable for kids as well. So I think the reason we kind of wanted to do this was we had been planning on doing it since we had heard that it had been 27 years since Jurassic Park came out, as of a couple weeks ago. And then over this last week, I sent you a post I saw on Instagram where it said that Jurassic Park was number one at the box office once again, 27 years later. And we just wanted to kind of discuss why that happened, and what makes this film so special that it could still be successful. And kind of getting into my opinion here, this is a timeless film. This is a film that aged remarkably well. It's up there in the caliber of films like Back to the Future and Jaws. Those films will forever be timeless. They will look perfect and be perfectly edited for till the end of time, as far as I'm concerned. And I think you agree as well.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think one of the major points that can be said about that, and I guess one of the acid tests you could say is, how much Jurassic Park has impacted our world. I mean, just beyond the movies, we've had not just one, but now a relaunch of the film series as well with the new Jurassic World movies. We see, I'm a big theme park guy, some of the most amazing theme park rides at the Universal Studio parks, not just, of course, what we see in California or Florida, but overseas as well, in Japan and Singapore. Just some awesome video games as well. So the whole Jurassic World, and I'm not just talking about the two new movies, but this whole Jurassic World concept that was dreamt up by Crichton and then put to screen is just, it shows, by the following, the deep following it still has even today, 27 years after the film was released.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with that said, let's get right into just, what we think of the plot, the characters, the acting, the performances. Let's start off with Jurassic Park. The very first film came out in 1993, as you said, directed by Steven Spielberg. One of our favorite directors. I know he's maybe your favorite director of all time. Besides Quentin Tarantino, I think you're pretty close behind on those guys, yeah?
He's definitely top three. I'm also a huge fan of Coppola and of Zemeckis, but definitely in there, in the mix, top five, maybe top three. Brilliant director, and Jurassic Park and this whole series, just some of the many films that have touched our lives that are brilliantly directed.
Yeah, and by Spielberg, that he's directed a beautiful collection of films that touched us in childhood, and they carry through into adulthood. They still are impactful when you're an adult, as the same as they are with a child. Which brings me to my first point with Jurassic Park. If it's not obvious enough yet, my score for Jurassic Park is a 10 out of 10. It's a masterpiece, one of the greatest films ever made. And what I want to say is, let me break down a few points here. This film, I like to think of it as two parts. And this is the genius of Spielberg. The first part of this film is nothing what you expected. At least when I expected, when my parents had described it to me, they said, oh, it's a park where dinosaurs break free and start eating people. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen until like an hour into the movie, at least.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, the first part of this film is almost an art show. You get to see not just the beauty of this remote island, Island Nublar off the coast of Costa Rica, but the beauty of these dinosaurs, these brilliant creatures roaming the earth, something that humans have never fathomed.
Yeah, and I think we're both thinking about the same scene right there, Ryan, where at the beginning they get in. And we got to say right here before we go any further, the most important aspect of this movie, John Williams' score as they fly onto the island. Dun, dun. Yep,
Yes.
awesome.
Fantastic. Landing by that waterfall.
Absolutely. And
Yep.
then another key moment with the score when they first roll up in the Jeeps and you just see Alan Grant go, what? He takes off his glasses and that look of amazement. Absolutely amazing work by by Sam Neill, the actor that plays Alan
Playing
Grant
Alan
there.
Grant, yes.
And Jeff Goldblum also, Laura Dern in the car as well. We'll talk about the characters in a second though, but let's talk about that just got it that time. Awe-striking. I think, is that right? No, that's not
Yes.
right.
Yeah, no, I think you said it perfectly, because
Yeah.
that's truly what Sam Neill is portraying, and Dr. Alan Grant is. He's awestricken,
Yeah.
seeing these dinosaurs as a paleontologist, someone who has spent his entire life studying the fossils of these creatures, seeing them up close, live, and in person, something that he, as well as audience members, never thought would be seen.
And I will say that first shot of the Brachiosaurus,
Brachiosaurus, yes.
it holds up today, but if you look closely, I mean, of course you can tell it's CG. But here's one technical aspect that I think that maybe you noticed on your rewatch recently, and my rewatch, I definitely noticed that this is why this movie still holds up. Spielberg does not do any close-up shots of the CG because he knew it
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't hold up this many years later. So he made sure it's wide shots, big, beautiful, picturesque shots where you can't closely examine the CG. So anytime there's a dinosaur right close up, it's a practical effect, which this
Yep.
film has some of the best practical effects. And yeah,
Yep,
uh,
so amazing. No, I
yeah,
agree with you. That's what makes this film, the visual effects of this film stand up the test of time.
absolutely. And I mean, I love the line delivery too. There's just this little character note that Sam Neill gives, when he sees all those dinosaurs moving in herds, he says, they're moving in herds. And then like there's a tear forming in his eye. They
Hmm.
move in herds. And it's just like this beautiful confirmation of everything. And, let's talk about Sir Richard Attenborough. You know who he plays in this one?
Absolutely. Dr. John Hammond,
Yeah. What do you think about him in
welcome
this?
to Jurassic Park. He is fantastic. I think if you can say anything about this film, just about, and we talked about this in the last episode. I like to nitpick a lot, but just about every character in this film, I think, is perfectly acted, and it all starts with Dr. John Hammond. Because let's think about Dr. John Hammond. He's this charismatic guy, but really, what is he? As far as I'm concerned, this guy is a mad scientist.
Yeah.
And I think he perfectly toes that line of charismatic genius to mad scientist. His striving for the perfect entertainment factor. I mean, he talks about it in the scene. I know it's later on in the film when he's in the restaurant with Laura Dern and talking about his flea circus and how he wanted to create something real. And I mean, that's what he really does. And I think he plays it perfectly. He's an entertainer. He's a brilliant man, and he's a perfectionist. He's constantly, even when everything is going down, he's thinking of how he can improve it. He still wants to open this park.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Sir Richard Attenborough in this movie. Great casting. Spielberg nailed it right there. And like you said, Laura Dern is excellent. Sam Neill, we talked about him, but I think the guy that steals the show in this movie, who is it, Ryan? Come on, man.
Dr. Ian Malcolm,
That's right.
played by, why am I blanking on his name? I'm not happy with myself right now. Jeff
Oh,
Goldblum.
okay.
Brad Bellflower.
I was gonna
Brad
say.
Bellflower from apartments.com. Jeff Goldblum steals the show. To me, any scene in this entire Jurassic universe with Jeff Goldblum in it is a 10 out of 10 scene. And I mean,
Absolutely.
from the start in this film, I love it. Some of his first lines on the helicopter, and it's an exchange between first Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum, and then after the exchange, because Goldblum's sort of hitting on Laura Dern, Sir Richard Attleborough, John Hammond goes to the lawyer. He goes, "I brought scientists. You brought a rock star."
Love that.
Love
Love
that
that.
line, and that really sums up this character. He's sort of this. He's one of the most esteemed mathematicians and chaos theorists in the world. But he's witty. His line delivery is incredible, and I think some of the lines that he brings up, yes, they're witty, yes, they're entertaining, but they're poignant. The scene at
Absolutely.
the luncheon where he's discussing how you didn't do anything to earn this land. You just took other people's work and threw it out to make a park.
The rape of the natural world, one of my
Yes.
favorite lines in this film. And I think, you touched on it, Ryan. The line delivered by Jeff Goldblum. This is a side character in the film, could easily fall into the background, but Jeff Goldblum just brings him to the forefront. Absolutely. It's excellent writing and everything, but it's just Jeff Goldblum's performance that really brings out this character, stole the show for me. And I think part of the essence of his character is that we're on his side for most of the movie. We love seeing the dinosaurs, we love seeing them fight and everything is very exciting. But as far as his worldview, and it becomes the theme of the film, which is the best part about Jurassic Park for me, is the theme of the film,
Mm-hmm.
the
Absolutely.
meaning of it. It's we're on his side. They focused on that they could do this, but not that they should.
If they should,
Yeah.
yes. And I want to say, as I talked about a little bit in the intro, these films, a new age of monster films, but looking at the parallels, and I'm going to compare The Lost World when we discuss it to another monster movie as well, but
Okay.
looking at this one and comparing it to back in the 1920s, what Frankenstein was, a warning to not play God, to not create life. Why did Dr. Victor Frankenstein create the monster and bring back life? Because he could. I think it's very similar there, and it's a new warning for a new world with new technology. That's
Yeah.
what Michael Crichton was all about in his novels, and of course these being Jurassic Park and The Lost World is two groundbreaking bestseller novels that were turned to film. That's the warning from it, and no person better to deliver that belief than Jeff Goldblum as the chaos theorist, Dr. Ian Malcolm.
Yeah, and I think one of the best parts in the movie is that luncheon scene. It's really not the climax, but the main point in the movie is where Richard Attenborough, John Hammond, he says, "I can't believe it. The only one on my side is the blood-sucking lawyer." And then, of course, the blood-sucking lawyer says, "Thanks, John."
Yeah.
That's a great point. This
Oh,
movie is
absolutely.
funny, and it's exciting, and it's thrilling, and it's terrifying. I love this movie. Let's talk about the games warden. I can't remember his name right now. I feel like it's Robert.
Robert Muldoon, yes.
Yes, excellent performance there, and it just that this is his character. Ratchets up the suspense. When they're on the first of the tour, they fail at seeing the dinosaurs in those first two enclosures. He just says, "Everybody, be quiet. They're approaching the T-Rex exhibit." And like it's
Yeah.
just like and you just see the sweat forming on his face, and the suspense level in this movie is through the roof. The camera shots, the direction, the choice of when to zoom, when to hold, when to cut to a wide, when to cut to a close-up, how to arrange the characters in a shot. It's masterful direction, perfect shot making. Everything about it, I think, is perfect from a technical level. And keep going, Ryan. I
Yeah.
need to think some more.
Well, I just want to touch on, you talked about Robert Muldoon, played by Bob Peck. I think what's impeccable about this film is, yes, you have an awesome performance by Sam Neill, awesome performance by Jeff Goldblum, awesome performance by Richard Attenborough, beg your pardon.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think some of the best performances are given by these side characters. One of my favorite characters in this, Dennis Nedry, played by Wayne Knight. You see my little prop here, the shaving cream can. Truly the villain in this film. This, and it's a new age of villain too. A cyber hacker is
Yeah.
our villain, not necessarily someone who's this big brute who just went around and unlocked the cages and let the dinosaurs out. Someone who did most of his damage by typing into a computer, and definitely more commentary on technology in today's age. But I thought he gave a brilliant performance. Also, he sort of gets what's coming to him in the storm. Love
Absolutely.
love seeing that. And
Oh, and
I,
let me
yeah,
touch on something here before we move on from the side characters, Ryan.
yes,
Samuel L. Jackson's one of
yep.
his first appearance on in
That's
cinema.
absolutely right. We're playing Ray Arnold, one of the coolest lines in this film, with the cigarette in his mouth with the ash falling out. Hold on to your butts.
Yeah, he's awesome in this movie. I
He's
love how he's
so
always a
awesome.
cigarette in his mouth. Yeah,
Really, but I will say I was very disappointed on how they let him go in the film.
dies off screen. But I
Yeah.
mean, this is something we'll touch on when we talk about Jurassic World. The arm, oh,
Yes.
you're here, and then the arm
Yeah.
comes
The
off.
arm falls off. Yes.
And preceded that scene precedes probably I know that I had a few friends that have said this before. Maybe one of the best jump scares in all of cinema, where Laura Dern is turning the buttons and she turns on the power and she says, "Yes, we're in business." And it's a shot of her from the camera's pointing this way, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you could not see it coming.
Mm-hmm.
Boom! Velociraptor out from behind
Velociraptor.
her.
Yep.
So
Yep.
great.
Definitely. Yeah, a groundbreaking film for sure. An excellent film. I didn't get a chance to give my score, and I
Oh
think
yeah, go ahead.
talking about this, I will bump my score from what I originally thought. I'll give this film an 8.5 out of 10. This is definitely a great film.
Yeah.
Not quite to me the level of excellence. I know I say it probably way too much. There are some pacing problems in this film.
Okay. What? Yeah.
I
What negatives do you have?
I'm not a huge fan of the scenes with Sam Neill and the kids. There you see them survive the night in the tree, but then having them the next morning in the tree, the God bless you scene, which I think is a lot of people will consider one of the greatest scenes in this film. And I just think those scenes kind of drag on. It's commentary. I mean, you see it from the beginning where Laura Dern and Sam Neill are talking about having kids and his thoughts on having kids, and it's to make a point. I thought those were a bit slow. I also I think there are some scenes that are rather slow with Laura Dern. I don't know. I think of the main cast, she is the weakest. She has some great scenes towards the end, but I think some of the scenes where she's with the veterinarian and the triceratops, and they're kind of slow. She falls a little flat for me until we see her going out after Sam Arnold. Sam Arnold, that's correct, right? Samuel L. Jackson's character. It shouldn't. It isn't Sam Arnold, is it? It's Ray Arnold. Sorry.
Ray Arnold, yeah.
I mean, those are some great scenes, but otherwise, I think she falls a little flat in some of these panic scenes.
Hmm.
Uh, but all in all, like I said, 8.5 out of 10. Definitely a great film. Love that this laid the groundwork for the world that was, created from it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
8.5 out of 10. Definitely a
It's
great
definitely a
film.
movie you could watch over and over again, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's the key point. This is like you were had already said. This is a classic. You could watch it over and again. It's still very enjoyable. Um, what do you think? Should we talk about this one a little more? Do you have any more points, or you want to move on?
I'll make one point.
Yeah,
One
go ahead.
last point. I think definitely the coolest scene in this film. It involves Martin Ferrero,
Okay.
who plays our lawyer,
Yeah.
Donald Gennaro. Definitely, first of all, I think he has some of the greatest lines in the first half of this film. But I love the T-Rex scene and his death, running to the outhouse, and the T-Rex destroys the outhouse. I
And then
think he
bites
gets,
him, and you can see his
yep.
legs flailing.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Mm-hmm.
something we'll touch on. I'm gonna hint at it later, but this movie is violent.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and and if you think back to Jurassic World, especially Fallen Kingdom, there's not a drop of blood in those movies, but
That's
we'll
fair.
save it from when we talk about
Yeah.
those. And then one thing I thought of before you finish your point, Ryan, with as far as Sam Neill and the kids and his line is like, I think that's also a very great character beat because, like he says in the film is also about Sam Neill. He's pretty much our main character,
Yes.
and it's about him evolving like these dinosaurs. It's all about natural selection, evolution. It's about him evolving into someone that is able to grow out of his hatred of, I don't want to have kids. It's about him growing his mindset, really. And I like that through line as well, which is what I like about that aspect. But you said that wasn't for you, so that's cool too.
Yeah, it definitely, like I said, wasn't for me. I wanted, more action to be filled in those scenes than, his evolution. But like I said, great ensemble performance. I had a few small problems with pacing, a few small problems with the story. I'll give the example, and I definitely think it does circle back to Ian Malcolm's point. But, I think if truly these people for working for InGen are the best and brightest minds in genetics, they should have seen coming that if they're putting West African frog DNA in these dinosaurs, that they could change gender.
I thought about something on that.
Yes.
Okay, Ryan, you're gonna hate me for saying this, but I rewatched it this morning, and I've seen it now like so many times, and I was like, I gotta pay attention to see if there's something that makes sense. Okay, this is how it makes sense in the film. They don't say that it's necessarily West African frog DNA they put in there. They just say amphibian DNA of
Right.
from
Correct.
frogs. Correct.
Correct.
So, and then the whole through line of the film, then this is what I was agreeing with you before I saw the film again. And then what put me in this mindset now is Jeff Goldblum's line. They were so caught up in if they could, but not if they should. They could do it by putting in frog DNA, but did they think they should? Did they actually follow through and think through? That's where the flaw is, and that's the whole point of the film.
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. But I still think that should have been something that was caught by these geneticists. Just especially how easily it took, how quickly it was like this for Alan Grant, just frog DNA. He knew it immediately.
Yeah.
Last thing I'm going to say on this film and what holds it back from being a 10 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
The final scene. And don't get me wrong, this is one of the coolest scenes to see on screen. But I am not a fan of Deus Ex Machina. We've talked about this in different film. For those of you unfamiliar, basically it translates from Latin to God of Machines. And what this means is that all hope is lost, and then some third party character comes in and saves the day. And that's exactly what happens in the final scene here. We're in the visitor center. Everyone's together. They're surrounded by the three raptors. It seems that all hope is lost. And then your T-Rex comes and saves the day. But awesome scene. The T-Rex wins the battle, and you see him in the visitor center with the banners falling. Awesome scene. But is that likely to happen? No, I think it was a device to keep the story going, and it was a money shot, but it hurt the story for me.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I think that it works in the film, and you know, I don't know. I just like we disagree on that, but that's cool too. So that wraps up Jurassic Park for the both of us. An excellent suspense film, an absolute thriller, horror, terrifying, which leads us into a film that I just recently rewatched and Ryan watched for the first time. I think you enjoyed it a lot, Ryan. Jurassic Park 2, or better known as The Lost World.
Yeah. Oh man, did I? I was a fan of Jurassic Park. Hadn't watched the sequels because I'd heard very mixed reviews about them, and I figured, sometimes sequels are terrible. Just enjoy Jurassic Park for what it is. I'd seen the Jurassic World films before this, not a fan of those. This film, as a sequel, one of the few times that a sequel to me was better than the original.
Ooh.
This film was awesome. I was locked in the entire film. I think what gave it that way to me is that it wasn't in a park environment. These dinosaurs were wild on Isla Sorna. They were there raised free, and then seeing the humans come and step into their environment and what happened was truly great. Definitely you want to talk about a suspense monster horror thriller almost. This film definitely has it. Some of the coolest scenes, some very violent scenes. I think the waterfall scene immediately comes to mind.
Yeah.
As well as the open grass scene with all the raptors. It's just a slaughter. But yeah, really love this film. I give this film a 9.5 out of 10.
Nice.
And I'll talk about it a little bit later on as we get through the plot of the film. But I think this one also draws a correlation to an original Universal monster film. I tie this one very similarly to King Kong, even so much so that if you look at it, the name of the boat in the final scene that brings the T-Rex to San Diego is the same name as the boat in the original King Kong, the Minnow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cool pointer, dude. Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna give my score and a few of my thoughts. I definitely agree with your point, Ryan. From minute one, once they step on this island, the tension rises, the suspense is there. You think that they could get trampled at any second, they can get eaten alive at any second. I love that aspect of the film. And another strong point for me was they saw that everybody loved Jeff Goldblum in the first film, and they said, let's make him the main character in this one. And they give him an emotional, like, if you think about it logically. Why would anyone go back and put themselves in danger like that? Well, for Jeff Goldblum, it's his girlfriend is on that island and he needs to go and save her. And for me, that's like, yeah, that's believable. That's why I like the plight in this movie. And Jeff Goldblum, once again, is excellent in this film. And I'll give my score because I have a feeling you have a lot to say on this one, Ryan. So let me just say I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah. So I just want to start actually though on the Jeff Goldblum point. I think yes, Jeff Goldblum is loved and beloved, but so is Dr. Ian Malcolm as a character, because you look at the Michael Crichton novels. He actually, in Jurassic Park, the original novel, Dr. Ian Malcolm dies at the end, and he was written back in the Lost World. So I think that's just to the point that, yes, although Jeff Goldblum perfectly portrays this character, it's the love for the character and his beliefs that stand true. So just a little side note there. But yes, I think one of the reasons that this film is above and beyond Jurassic Park for me was that it centered around Ian Malcolm. He shows his emotions in this film, not just with his girlfriend, but also with his daughter, who is in the film and plays a major role. So I think that's a huge, huge bonus in this film for me, is seeing a film centered around him, because he is probably everyone's favorite character, the most memorable character in Jurassic Park. So to see a story centered around him. So definitely a big fan there. Also love the addition of Vince Vaughn in this film. I think he is excellent in this film.
I'm a huge fan of Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, me too. And I was curious, though. I hadn't seen him in much outside of comedy, but seeing him still play, sort of his goofy self, and still in this serious movie was truly great.
Yeah, and he's kind of like a badass in this movie too.
Absolutely.
They also Hammond also called for a backup plan, and they go, "What was it? Me."
Me.
Yeah, so cool.
Yep.
Cool line. Yeah, I love this one, dude. Let me explain. Since you had some negatives with the last film, I have 2 negatives. I knock each of them down a half point, which brings it from a 10 to a 9. So just so the math makes sense.
Let's hear it.
So first half point off. There's one thing in this movie that feels totally out of place in the entire film, when his daughter just starts doing gymnastics and kicks a raptor out the window.
I could not agree more with you. I could not agree more with you. They touch on it a little bit in the film right at the beginning that, he's not the greatest father because he didn't know that she got cut from the gymnastics scene. That scene's a little bit ridiculous.
Absolutely. It feels totally out of place in the movie. Like everything was awesome in the movie. And then I was like, but you know what? It's only like 15 seconds. So I give it a pass for the most part, but that's a little half point off.
I agree.
Number 2 markdown that brings it down to a 9 was, I think you had the same issue. The cut from when they finally are able to get off the island to when they're in San Diego is so abrupt. It's like time just jumps by, and it's like, whoa, let me catch up for a second. But then once again, you're back in the action, and it eases over.
But no, you are absolutely right. I watched this film for the first time about a week ago, and I was watching it with my girlfriend. You have the helicopter rescue from Isla Sorna. It's nighttime. Yeah. And then you have them rushing in a taxi to Hammond's nephew's estate, and it's nighttime. And you're like, can a helicopter fly from Costa Rica to San Diego that quickly? I'm looking up flight times. I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm just, what happened there? So I agree with you. I did not knock it for that. Like I said, it took a while to register, but it did eventually, sort of make sense. The half point I did knock it for was that gymnastics scene was ridiculous.
Yeah. And let's talk about my favorite aspect of this film. Once again, Steven Spielberg directing, absolute master of suspense and thrills. My favorite suspense scene, there's a lot of great suspense scenes in this film, but my favorite one has to be with the trailer hanging off the cliff. Everyone's dangling. The suspense is through the roof. The glass is cracking. And what do you think?
I gotta disagree with you on that.
Okay.
And, I think it was almost overdone.
Really? Okay.
I think that scene went on for entirely too long, and you've got the equipment guy, out there trying to save him, and he doesn't tie it down, and I don't think the trailer would fall that slowly. I think they would have been gone, and then at the end, the whole trailer falls and somehow just miraculously misses all of them, just falls right through. I thought that
I
was a
guess.
bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I can see you, but I mean, I thought it was really suspenseful, especially with the glass cracking on oh, what's her name? Do you know his girlfriend's the
Yeah,
actress or the real character? Look it up.
yeah, it's Moore.
Julianne Moore. Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore. There you go.
Yeah, she's like hanging on the glass. The glass is cracking. It's very suspenseful, and the scene that precedes that with the mama and the papa T-Rex on either side of the windows and the amazing practical effects. It rivals the first appearance of the T-Rex
Oh
in the
yeah.
original Jurassic Park.
So
Absolutely
I'm
incredible.
I'm not knocking the initial scenes, and that
Mhm,
that happens early on. The glass
mhm.
cracking. I'm knocking. Okay, the glass is cracked. They've held onto the rope. The guy's trying to tie the knot and get the truck to go in reverse. I think it went on for too long. At the beginning, the glass cracking, definitely one of the most suspenseful scenes. Her reaching for that rope and them sliding down, extremely suspenseful. But it does to me go on a little long.
Okay.
I do want to say, so I did talk about my favorite death in the first. Well, I
What?
talked about my two.
Yeah. What's your
So
favorite in this one?
there are a couple. First of
Okay.
all, I want to talk about the death of, and I'm gonna get it here right, so I have his name. Here we are. It's the scene where the guy goes off to the bathroom.
The guy goes off. Oh yes, I know
You know what I'm
exactly who you're
talking
talking
about?
about.
Yes,
Gets eaten by all the little tiny dinosaurs.
yes,
Yeah,
Dieter.
that's a great yes.
Yes. So because the guy, his buddy said, "Oh, if I get lost, I'll call out to you," and he's listening to the music, so he can't hear the screams. So I love that because that guy's kind of a dick. You see
Absolutely.
him zapping the little dinosaurs with his taser, his stun gun.
Yep.
So that one, and then the scene most suspenseful death is, I mentioned it earlier, the waterfall scene. The guy has the snake crawling down him, and he
Ah,
freaks out and goes running towards the water. The dinosaur just comes in and grabs him and pulls him out. The
yeah.
T-Rex. Definitely most suspenseful death because, I mean, snakes are scary. Don't get me wrong. You have
Yeah.
a snake, a jungle snake crawling down you like that. I'm a freak out too. But come on, a snake next to a dinosaur? I mean, what are you going to do? Talk about a rock in a hard place.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a couple more things to say on this one.
You go right ahead. I've said my piece on this, 9.5 out of 10. So I'm done on the Lost World. Go
Oh,
ahead.
cool. I want to see what else you have to say about a few points I have too.
Go right ahead.
So, specifically the character work in this one. Let's talk about. We talked about the heroes. Talk about the villains in this movie. The guy with the circle glasses. I'm terrible at remembering the names, but you can look it up for me. He's kind of the uncle in the picture. Or no, he's not the uncle. He's the nephew of John Hammond.
Yeah. Peter Ludlow,
Yeah,
played by
and
Arliss Howard.
he's kind of nobody respects him in the movie.
Yep, not at all.
Yeah, and who's the main guy? The hunter guy. He's excellent actor. He does an excellent job in this movie. He only is there. He says, "Forget about my feet." I love the kind of scolding he gives the guy, the nephew in the beginning.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. Where he said, they're sitting in the jeeps, right, chasing
Yep.
down the Yeah, don't touch. If I'm not in demand, AJ's in demand. Don't touch anything, something like that, right?
Yeah, and then he says,
Yep,
"And my feet, you can forget about it. I'm here to hunt a male T-Rex, a buck."
yep. Roland Tembo, played by Pete Postlewaite.
Yeah, he's awesome in this movie. And he kind of like blurs the line. Is like he wants to kill the T-Rex, so you're kind of against him, but he's kind of a badass, so you're kind of like on his side, and he wants to save everybody, and he's on top of his stuff. So he's a great character in this movie. Great execution by the actor. And I'm just to kind of cap off what I have to say, and then you close this one out, Ryan. My favorite death in this movie is, once again, I can't remember the character's name, but he comes down from the safe high or whatever it is, the hide, and
Mm-hmm.
he's the one tying the rope, and he's the guy that tries to get the winch on the trailer to pull it up.
Yep,
And
Eddie Carr.
yeah, and he comes in, and the two T-Rexes, one picks him up, throws him up in the air, swallows his head, and then the other one rips him in half, and you see the blood spurting out. Gory as heck, but I freaking love that part.
Yep. No, I agree. That's a great scene. I see. The only reason I can't put that one there is because he's sort of one of our heroes. So I'm
Okay.
kind of bummed out to see him die.
Yeah, me too.
But definitely a gore-ridden scene, as there are many in this film, and I think it just adds to the film. A lot of people would say maybe it's over the top. I think it definitely adds to it because this is what would happen if humans impede on a predator's land like this, and
Absolutely.
do they don't understand that the T-Rexes don't understand that they're trying to heal their child. All they see is that their child has been taken by this group.
Yeah, and excellent practical effects work on the baby T-Rex. Some of the
Hmm.
best I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and let's just finish this one off with a few minutes. I love the San Diego sequence. I love seeing the T-Rex walk through the neighborhood. Very
Hmm.
perfect imagery right there. I love that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what do you think about the
And
San Diego sequence?
I think it is definitely what sold me on this movie. If this film wasn't a 9.5 before, I think that scene is so well executed, especially when you have the little kid in the bedroom and he wakes up his parents.
Yes.
I think it's a scene that maybe hits a little hard at home because of the ever advancing technology of the times, that one day something like this could happen. And I think that is what these films are. They're a warning, or at least the first two films that are based off of the Michael Crichton novels. Once we get into Jurassic Park 3, the Jurassic World films, those are original works. Those are not part of the Crichton novel series.
And that's where they start to mess up as well, Ryan. You know what? I
Absolutely.
think that's a perfect lead in. Should we
Yes, it
leave it
is.
there? Okay.
I do want to say one
Oh,
more thing.
go for it.
The absolute most surprising thing about the San Diego scene, when we're by the gas station, gas
Okay.
is only about $1.40 a gallon.
I love it, dude. I love it.
I kid you not, I had to pause it and rewind to make sure I read that right. And fun fact, actually, that gas station's in Granada Hills. Shout out San Fernando Valley. So close to the Santa Clarita Valley where both of us grew up. I recognized it immediately on screen.
Right on. So a 9 for me, 9.5 for Ryan, The Lost World. So let's move on to the next one. Ryan, what's our next one?
Jurassic Park 3. All right, let's move on to the next one. No, but I mean that's really how I feel about this
Oh
film.
wait,
This
I didn't. That went right over my head.
yeah. No, that's really how I feel about this film. This film was unnecessary, unnecessary, unnecessary.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let me just say this. I think we should just go short on this one, Ryan.
Yep, absolutely.
The character work in this one, not great. Not a single likable character, really. There's not a
Nope.
villain in this movie that you can, hate or antagonist of any sort. The only redeeming factor in this movie is Sam Neill is still great as Alan Grant. He's always going to be, but only because we loved him in the first movie. It's just some of that nostalgia, some of that carryover. The biggest thing that kind of sours the movie from the minute one in this one is that they just pay him to go to the island. Money talks in this movie. It's not
Hmm.
emotional like Jeff Goldblum's reason to go back. You know.
Absolutely. Yep.
So let me just say, my score for this one, I'm gonna give this one a 4.5.
Yeah, I'm right in there. 4.5. It's a below average film. Not a fan at all. Um, I mean, here's my final point on this one. I'm not a big fan. I feel like everyone survives in this film. There are some dinosaur attacks, and yet everyone manages to survive. And I don't like they're like communicating with the raptors,
With
and
the
yeah,
that
I
is
thought
so
I thought it
dumb.
was pretty ridiculous. And the phone or the radio survives through the digestive system, and they dig it out through the poop.
Yeah.
I was like, this is ridiculous.
And how about Alan Grant's dream where a raptor talks in his
Yeah,
dream? It says Alan, Alan. How dumb is that?
so dumb.
All right, yeah,
Yeah.
let's leave it at that. This one is not a great movie. Very disappointed to see this one. Maybe if you're a kid and you're just looking in for a good movie to just waste some time, you don't want to pay attention, you could watch this one, but it's kind of a waste of time, really.
Yeah,
So
not
yeah,
not necessary for the story. Before the Jurassic World series came out, if I just watched these first three films, I would have said, leave it at the Lost World. This was not necessary.
absolutely. Let's move on to the next one. Just like you said, Jurassic World. They brought this back. It's one of the highest grossing movies of all time. And I am absolutely appalled that it is that way. Don't get me wrong. I spent my money. I got a big screen viewing. I think I even watched this one in like Dolby Atmos or something awesome like that. But I went in there and, you can't help it. hearing John Williams' amazing musical cues again, you get nostalgic. But I walked away from this one very disappointed in the story. It's are some redeeming factors in this one. I'm going to give this one a 5.5 out of 10 because I'm a huge Chris Pratt fan, and I think he does give a good performance in this movie. But then again, there are some aspects of the story that kind of sour that portrayal a little bit. Specifically, the training of the Raptors. Where do you stand on that? The training of the Raptors.
You know, I didn't mind it at first, as if they were, Chris Pratt was this guy, almost a zookeeper-esque who understood these creatures and was able to train them. But then when they let it loose and, he's riding the motorcycle with them falling, I thought that was a bit ridiculous. That being said, I just want to put this out there. Compared to the first 3 films, this is a family film. Same can be said, I want to say, about Jurassic World 2, Fallen Kingdom. These are family films. These are not the Jurassic Park films that, people in the mid-90s grew up with. These are very different. These are definitely
they're worse.
Yeah, I agree, but they're different films, They're not these monster films necessarily. I think there's some great character arcs. I really do like the chemistry between Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt. It's pretty snappy, almost rom-com-esque.
Yeah.
You put it in where they are. It's not necessary, but I mean I also like the execution. I like the opening half of this film where the park has finally been realized. I don't mind that. I think it's kind of neat.
It's a great concept.
Yes, absolutely.
Before
once
you
again,
keep going,
go ahead. You go ahead.
So before you move on, Bryce Dallas Howard, one of the few times I'm gonna do a huge nitpick, dude, and I think maybe you agree with me on this. She wears high heels the whole movie, and she's running from dinosaurs.
Yes, you're absolutely right. But I think that does draw a point to this. That once again, and all these films are commentaries on technology, as far as I'm concerned. It's the comfort. They're comfortable. That these are just zoo animals. And I think that's almost playing to that. She feels safe at all times in this park. And you'd think the people would learn their lesson, I think that's the bottom line is, yes, you can revive this series, but how did they get the park? You go back to the first Jurassic Park film. What is the primary, what creates the story in that film? It's that the investors are losing hope because a worker is mauled to death. Yep. And the lawyer who is there representing them goes so far as to, be there and reassure them and dies. How do they still continue to get funding for this park?
It's so implausible.
Yes.
It's so implausible. They should have, like we said, the concept of the park actually working is cool, but it's implausible. And I just feel like they should have found a better way to bring back this series. There should have made something better about it. And this brings me to my least favorite characters, my least favorite part of the movie, which is a good majority of the movie. My jaw was on the floor when I saw that so much of the movie was encompassed by these 2 kids riding in this circle thing the whole movie. And why are they in the movie so much? It's terrible.
Because I'll answer your question, and I'll get into this a little bit more in Fallen Kingdom too, because this was a relaunch of Jurassic Park. And there were 2 kids in Jurassic Park, the first Jurassic Park. So they said, let's do that again.
Yep.
And I feel very similarly. We'll get into it in Fallen Kingdom, but I feel like everything that happens in Fallen Kingdom happened in the Lost World.
Yep. And so what was your score for this one, Ryan? I forgot.
6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. Okay,
yeah. So like I said, I think I may have appreciated a little bit more than you just the chemistry between Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt. I know we're both huge Chris Pratt fans, big Star-Lord guys.
Yeah.
But 6 out of 10, definitely.
Yeah.
I do want to touch on the coolest death in this one. It's a little nitpicky here. Jimmy Buffett makes a cameo in this film.
What?
Why, you ask? Because there is a Margaritaville on Jurassic World, and he makes one scene. It's when the aviary opens up and all the pterodons are flying over, and there's a quick scene where there are people at Margaritaville, and he is a guy who picks up his margaritas and runs, and that's it. And then one of the pterodons grabs him and carries him away.
That's cool. I didn't know that. I love that you knew that, Ryan.
Yeah, well, for those of the fans out there who didn't know, I am a huge Parrot Head, huge Jimmy Buffett fan. So anytime I could give Jimmy Buffett a plug, I'm going to. So there's my
Yeah.
Jimmy Buffett plug, first one from the top of the list.
Excellent, excellent. And before we move on to the next film, let's leave Jurassic World on a positive note. I think we can both agree on this. The special effects in this film are excellent. State of the art CG, but come on, they just threw money at the screen. But hey, it looks awesome. You know, the story we have issues with, but the special effects artists, the visual effects people behind the movie, we can't praise them enough. They did a great job with the way this movie looks.
Absolutely. A film that used, of course, less practical effects than we saw in the first three Jurassic Park films, but the CG is so state of the art that, you don't necessarily miss it. I mean, I think we're to the point now that the up close shots of the CG look just as good as a practical effect would.
Absolutely. And with that, that leaves us to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which I'm going to say my score, and it's going to be a rare score for me, Ryan. I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah. From minute one in this movie, I was absolutely appalled. I could not believe that this movie was greenlit. I could not believe the director that made this movie. He had made a movie before this that I thought was an enjoyable film. And it was none of that showed. This film was one of the biggest disappointments of the year for me. The trailer had amazing music. Once again, they're just playing on our nostalgia and the great musical scores. But it, if you watch the trailer, you've seen this movie. I remember sitting in the theater and saying, wow, this looks awesome, but it looks like they're showing so much in the movie. Maybe they have a lot up their sleeve. Nope. Every single shot in the trailer is in the movie, and they show off even the climax of the film. The way the film ends, they show it in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe it.
Yep.
Yeah, 3 out of 10. I hate this movie. This is one of the few films I hate.
4 out of 10 for me. It is definitely the lowest in this series. You call this film, you said they play on our nostalgia. I say this film is a family remake of The Lost World. I think after seeing The Lost World, I hated this picture even more because I loved The Lost World. And that's just what this film was. It was, let's take all of the good elements of The Lost World and let's try and outdo them in this film. Yep. And I thought it was a bit ridiculous. Like you said, I thought there were some neat ideas. I personally, and we've argued about this, I personally liked the auction scene.
Oh,
I thought
like
that
the
was
worst
kind
part of the movie for me.
I thought it was a neat idea. And you see the military, doing this. But once again, here's my thought. We failed in Jurassic Park. We failed in The Lost World. We've had problems in Jurassic Park 3. Jurassic World, everything went to crap. Why are we doing this for a fifth movie? Why are we doing this a fifth time? Why are we continuing to screw around with these genetically engineered dinosaurs?
Why would they bring them to the United States?
Yes.
And you know why? Let me give you an answer to that question, Ryan. You know why? They want to make Jurassic World 3.
There you go. That being said, the final scene in this film, we bring back Jeff Goldblum. And I understand, once again, to play off of the nostalgia of the original Jurassic Park fans. But that scene where he's giving in the court testimony his life finds a way speech, and you have the scene with the girl surfing with the big I don't know the exact name, but the water dinosaur that eats the Indominus Rex in the final scene of Jurassic World is chilling. And I love the delivery there.
Okay, yeah. But this brings me to maybe my biggest flaw with this film. In Jurassic Park 1 and 2, you are on the side of Jeff Goldblum. He's saying, no, life will find a way. They will reproduce. They will break out. This is a bad idea, John Hammond. You're making a mistake. And the audience is like, yeah, this is, you can't bring dinosaurs back. They're going to eat people. You're on the side of Jeff Goldblum. Our main characters in the film, Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, they're against Jeff Goldblum. They're saying, these are animals. They need to be saved. They need to be rescued.
Yeah.
What? No, nature Jeff Goldblum says in the first movie, these creatures were chosen by nature. They were selected by nature to be eliminated. Why all of a sudden are we going against Jeff Goldblum? He's the favorite. He's the best part of Jurassic Park. This movie ruined Jurassic Park.
You know what? You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But I think he makes the point at the end of the film. This has been a mistake once again made by humans, and the consequences will have to be lived with. This is going to be a new age where dinosaurs and humans will live, or we'll see will live together. But once again, we will see, because humans get involved in natural selection, and now we will see who is truly naturally selected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, you know what, for what I will say, Colin Trevorrow, the guy that wrote these movies, it's a brilliant idea. We want to see that, that San Diego sequence we saw at the end of The Lost World. Sure, we've already seen it, but what if it was the entire United States? What if it, like, I'm hoping that they go all the way in and they make it like an apocalypse where we go like maybe 5 years from the end of this film and it's just dinosaurs have taken over. It's reversed, it's 20, not 2100 or whatever, and
Right.
dinosaurs have reclaimed the earth and humans
Almost
are
like
the
a Planet of
minority.
the Apes-esque.
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
be cool.
no, you're right. That is a great idea. I never thought of it going that way, but that would be really neat.
Yeah, and I mean, basically, I hate to hate on the guy, but Colin Trevorrow, the guy that wrote it, he's not the director for this one, but he did direct the first one. In interviews, he's even said, I've read interviews by him, and he said, well, what was the point, with knowing the way this one ends, with the dinosaurs back in the U.S., was it your intention all along to get them there? And this was, I want to say quote for quote, this is what he said, but it's not exact. He said, I knew when I started to make these Jurassic World films that it would take 2 films to earn it. So why did he make 1 and 2 if all along he just wanted to make Jurassic World 3 where dinosaurs are on the U.S.? Couldn't he have just done that in 1 film?
Cha-ching, show me the money.
Money.
Yep.
Money. Yep.
So basically, I think we can both agree.
Yeah.
If the music was not done by John Williams, the Jurassic Park movie sucked, because John Williams only did the music for Jurassic Park and The Lost World.
Yep.
So that's what we can say. Bottom
Yep.
line, John Williams knows a good movie. He will not do the music for a movie if it's going to be terrible. So hats off to John Williams. That's I think the moral of our story today.
Yeah, hats off to John Williams. Excellent composer. The best of all time.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Oh, let me talk about the ending. One of the worst writing of a dialogue and line delivery I've ever seen. The little girl that's a human clone. And for 1 second, I thought that she was going to blink and her eye would be the eye of a dinosaur. And at that point, I would have walked out of this movie, dude. You know how dumb okay. I don't know, dude. This movie ruined it for me. But let me just say, her line at the end where Bryce Dallas Howard is about to press the button to let all the dinosaurs out, and then she hesitates and says, no, that would be a bad decision. And I was like, thank you.
Finally, yes.
Someone makes a good decision.
Absolutely.
But then the little girl just goes up and presses it and goes, I have to let them go because they're alive like me.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that was so terrible.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I had blocked that out of my memory. But I'm glad you did, because you just made sure that my score downgraded to a 3 out of 10 in this film. Because you were absolutely right. I had totally just, like I said, blocked that out. But you are right. That was ridiculous.
Oh, man.
The whole idea of that character.
Yeah. So what do you think? You want to leave it off there, or you got some more to say, or?
I have nothing else to say. I wish we had all listened to Michael Crichton and we had done Jurassic Park 1 and we had done The Lost World. I wish we had listened to Dr. Ian Malcolm.
Absolutely.
And just let the dinosaurs be on Isla Sorna and let natural selection do its thing. But of course we didn't, both in reality and in the stories. And we get what we have now.
And the studios wanted to make more money. So there it is, man. Our reviews of Jurassic Park, the series, all the way from 1 to number 5. Awaiting number 6, it will be happening. And of course, when that hits theaters, Ryan, you and I will be there
We will be there
to see it. I mean, we're Jurassic Park fans. We got to review it. We got to get out. Fingers crossed they could bring this one back, but it's pretty bad at this point.
Yeah. So I think let's just wrap it up with our list. I think it was identical. We're a little bit different, 1 and 2, but let's just wrap it up with the list. There are 5 films. Bottom of the list for both of us would be Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Yep.
I think number 4 for both of us would be Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah.
Then coming in at 3rd would be Jurassic World. And then second for me would be Jurassic Park. Top of the list for me, beg your pardon, The Lost World, Jurassic Park. Dom, take it away with your list, or at least, the flip-flop there at the top for you.
Yeah, absolutely, the flip-flop. Number 1 has to be top of the list, Jurassic Park, one of the greatest films ever made of all time. John Williams, excellent. We've touched on it enough. It's a classic. Watch it over and over. Absolute masterpiece. Violent. That we didn't say that, there's, well, I guess I did say there's no blood in these Jurassic World movies. They're family movies. So, I don't like those ones. And, number two, Jurassic The Lost World, also an excellent film. If you're going to watch Jurassic Park, guys, and you've never seen it before, watch number one, watch number two. Do not go see the rest of them. It's not worth it at all. So that's going to be it for us this week on Top of the List, Ryan. You can follow me at Dom Gonzalez48, DOMGONZALES. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below. If you want to see some more videos, let us know what's on the top of the list for you in the Jurassic Park series. Let us know what you might think, what might happen with Jurassic World 3. Can they redeem it? Is it irredeemable at this point? Let us know in the comments down below. And Ryan, take us out.
Yeah, so I'm Ryan Barnett, RB, as Dom said. You can follow me on Instagram at RB_the_SID. Some parting words of advice for all of our fans out there. If you're off the coast of Costa Rica and you find a Barbasol can, leave it alone. Do not take the embryos out. Just let it be. It's supposed to be there. Do not touch it. I think next week we're going to have some fun as well. We're going to open up our first ever episode talking about video games. So definitely stay tuned for that one. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.